Excelsior, one of Stan Lee's most recognizable and famous quotes to date. It was his own unique way to end off the comics. Stan Lee was the co-creator of most of the Marvel comics that we know and love today. Marvel, or my favorite Marvel superhero would probably have to be Iron Man. His story kind of could happen in our reality, and it could happen to almost anyone. And it was the first Marvel movie that my dad and I went to go see in theaters together. Marvel has impacted my life. Me and my dad, well, my dad grew up reading the comics and always waiting for the new one to come out, and he kind of raised me on watching the movies, and he kept his comic books for me whenever I wanted to read them. All the old ones, all the classics. In my opinion, I think Marvel Comics has positively impacted our society. Not many people believe it has. They just think it's, a series of movies that go together and they go into a certain time order, even though they came out in a different time than, not in order. But many people growing up with the comics and even with the movies have really taken that to heart and have really used that in their everyday life. But to create something that has impacted people just like how Marvel has, we have to go back into how Stan Lee kind of got inspiration to start creating these comics and just the success it brought later on in life. So Stanley Martin Lieber, or as you know him, Stan Lee, was born December 28th, 1922 in New York. When he was in high school, a local newspaper held a writing competition in his gym, and he loved to write. He wanted to be a writer growing up, so he entered and ended up winning for 3 weeks straight. The newspaper interviewed him and told him that he should really think about writing professionally, of how good his writing was. So he really took that to heart, and it really changed his perspective of writing, and that's what made him pursue writing professionally. At the age of 16, he graduated high school early and got a job at Timely News as an editor's assistant. 4 years later, and he got promoted to editor. During that time, he was also in the Army in World War II as a writer and illustrator. Later on, still being an editor for Timely News, his boss had come up to him and he's like, listen, I want you to create a series that can compete with our rival DC's Justice League of America. So Stan Lee accepted, went home, and could not think of what to write. Like, he was having writer's block. He could not think of what's so good to write about that can compete with DC's superheroes. His wife Joan told him that he really shouldn't give up. She kind of just encouraged him and motivated him to keep pushing. Don't give up on this. That he's able to accomplish what his boss asked him to do. So with the help from artist and co-creator Jack Kirby, they created the Fantastic Four. So after it was published, it got a lot of success, and after the success, they decided to keep creating characters like how they did the Fantastic Four. Some of the characters that we love today are Hulk, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, and the X-Men. After more and more of those were created, he got promoted to editorial director and publisher in 1972. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU for short, has really impacted people's lives in a very positive way. Whether it's from reading the comics or watching the movies or even both, there are some people out there who look up to these stories. Lee introduced these characters into the world where they were inspired, to give people hope, and to help people realize their dreams, whether they, if they didn't have the courage to do it themselves. It kind of gave them, the courage to stand up for what they wanted and, just accomplish anything they wanted in life, whether it was young, midlife, or just at the very end. He gave them a universe to where he could escape to when they had a very, just in reality, their life wasn't what they wanted it to be. He gave them a universe so they could escape. He once told someone that someone came up to him and told him how he didn't have a happy life, he really had nothing to live for, and just having these comics to read and just those were the one good thing in his life that just gave his life meaning. Like it's just hard to explain with the emotion that he gave Stan Lee, but having that is what made him want to kind of keep going with this and doing it for his fans, not for money, not for just it being out there. He wanted it for the people reading it. Stan Lee extended his influence from comics to movies, appearing in 34 MCU films. One movie in particular I want to talk about is Black Panther. Black Panther, it became a cultural phenomenon. It was the first superhero film with African American actors and actresses in the leading roles. It inspired Black Panther themed watch parties, voter registration initiative to a curriculum that encourages educators to leverage the film to teach deeper histories about African American culture, politics, and history. Face front, true believers. Stan Lee's long legacy wasn't created on accident. Even though he really never saw himself writing these comics, he accomplished a lot of other stuff too that he really didn't think about. And he touched hearts of many people in this world with both his comics and his movies. As a legend once said, with great power comes great responsibility.